I'm curious about this Fab Four smoothie. So you brought this up. I know the people that are listening are like, what's in that Fab Four smoothie? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, the Fab Four is a short list of things that when you put them on your plate or put them in your blender, they're going to support blood sugar balance. And so it's important that we talk about what the Fab Four is before I give you the formula for the Fab Four smoothie. Yep. But the Fab Four includes protein, fat, fiber, and leafy greens or vegetables deep in color. And so when I think about what creates blood sugar in the body, and the goal of the Fab Four is to support your blood sugar balance. So I want you to be satisfied. I want you not to think about food. I want you to be able to have a meal and go 4 to 6 hours without going, where are the snacks? Where's the pantry? And the key to that is regulating hunger hormones, elongating your blood sugar curve and making that meal last, right? So that elongation of the blood sugar curve really supports that. And we're seeing blood sugar become really popular. People are using CGMs like levels and nutritionist, and that's showing people like how what they eat impacts their blood sugar or their glucose levels. And so when we think about protein breaks down to amino acids, fats breaking down to fatty acids, and then you have fiber and greens, which are these non-starchy vegetables, these low carbohydrates fruits like berries that are rich in polyphenols, loaded with all those phytochemicals and antioxidants, right? And what's so cool about those is that they're wrapped in a fiber cell. And so even blended, you're getting that fiber and fat and protein that's going to slow down the digestion of that meal. So what the Fab Four does is it looks at how do we eat the things that aren't breaking down to fast glucose, and how do we eat the things that regulate our hunger hormones so that we do feel full and satisfied. We aren't crashing into lunch or crashing into dinner and feeling ravenous, but instead we're slowly floating up in a healthy way. And gradually insulin is supporting us to bring our blood sugar into our liver and into our muscles for energy. So when I think about the Fab Four, I created that because people would put a plate together and maybe it's for their kids and they're doing pasta and a tomato sauce and a side of garlic bread. And I look at all three of those things, and pasta is a starchy carbohydrate, your blood sugar is going up. Pasta sauce, just the tomato sauce on its own, that's also a carbohydrate, and it's blended down and it's stewed down. So it's actually going to create a blood sugar spike. And then you're adding processed carbohydrate like a garlic bread on top of that. And that is a triple spike blood sugar roller coaster for your kids.
Reminds me of how I grew up.
It's how we all grew
with
up.
Garlic bread. Yeah.
Yeah. It's how we all grew up. So that blood sugar roller coaster is takes us up for about 90 minutes. And the more processed that food is, the more blended, the more what we call acellular. Did it start as a flour first? So I always ask my clients, is it a flour first, or is it broken down out of its fiber cell? And so that can be anything from apple juice versus a whole apple. It can be, pasta, crackers, bread. These were all a whole grain, or maybe you're using lentil pasta, whatever it was, it's still broken down to a flour. So it's going to digest a lot faster. And so what we want to do is kind of look at the meal and say, wow, that is a triple spike going up. Every single one of the components is causing my blood sugar to go up, which means it's going to go up pretty fast. And then at the 90-minute mark, when we're starting really have that surge of insulin in our body, we're starting to put that blood sugar away. We might have an overreactive pancreas. We might have excess insulin. We might see a reactive hypoglycemic response where that 90-minute mark, we start to crash, and that crash doesn't feel great. We might not even have low blood sugar, but we are thinking about sugar. We're thinking about carbohydrates. We're going, where is that something more, that something extra, that dessert, right? You want that sweet. And so my whole goal with the Fab Four was to say, how do we create balance on this plate? So I'll work with clients and say, okay, you're using a whole wheat pasta, you're using a sugar added, there's sugar in your pasta sauce, and you're using like a white flour garlic bread from Costco freezer department, right? So how can we increase the nutrition by using the Fab Four? And how is that Fab Four going to elongate that blood sugar curve? So let's look at the components. You take that pasta, you go, can I have a more fiber rich or a lower carbohydrate density pasta? You can use a Capello's almond flour pasta. You can use a tolerant lentil pasta. You could use a fiber-based pasta, like a zoodle, or a zoodle in a squash or a zucchini, right? So right there, we're going to lower that carbohydrate load. We're going to make it more fiber rich and maybe potentially green if we're adding zoodles to that. And then we want to add that protein and fat. So a grass-fed pound of ground beef would be a phenomenal add to that tomato sauce. And then you're looking at the tomato sauce to ensure that there's no added sugar there. And so that protein and fat in that meat is going to slow down the digestion of that meal. And using a fiber-rich pasta is going to slow down the digestion of that meal. It's going to increase the antioxidants, the phytochemicals. It's going to increase all the fat-soluble vitamins in that grass-fed beef. You're getting good quality protein to regulate hunger hormones. And then you say, okay, can we take it even further? Like, can we take a carrot, or if you didn't use the zoodles, a zucchini or summer squash, can we grate some of that into that meat sauce to add some veggies there for our kids and for our family? And then all of a sudden you're going from this highly processed, mostly a triple spike blood sugar roller coaster of a meal, and you are loading it with protein, you're loading it with fat soluble vitamins, minerals, you're loading it with antioxidants and veggies, you're adding fiber for those microbes in your gut, and you're filling up, like you're really feeling full to the point of going like, I'm full and satisfied, and I'm not going to need to think about food for another 4 to 6 hours. And if that is dinner, it's easy to say like, I'm done eating for the day. And so that's the goal of the Fab Four, is really to go like, how can we put the protein, the fat, and the fiber or the colorful veggies on the plate first and work from there? And if we're analyzing a plate, and we don't have to say like, what are the macros here? What are the calories here? We just go like, is it spike inducing? Is it going to cause a blood sugar spike? And if so, how can I swap it out or lower that glucose response and to elongate that blood sugar curve and feel full? And so that's the point of the Fab Four. It's light and easy. Like, I have moms who will serve up a snack to their kids, and they'll just serve a plate of fruit in the middle of the day at 3 in the afternoon after school. And I say, that's great, but they are going to go up and crash down before dinner, and your kids are going to be hungrier, and they're going to be complaining to you that they want to have a snack before dinner. And you're going to have that that afternoon meltdown. But what if we made it apple nachos, and we sliced it up, and we took some almond butter, and we drizzled almond butter on top, and we threw some hemp hearts on top, and we threw some, coconut flakes on top of that. And then all of a sudden, super fun, kids are involved. We've used 1 apple, a couple tablespoons of nut butter, some added, crunch with the hemp hearts and the coconut flakes. And all of a sudden it is something that is more sustaining for them, more filling for them, and it's going to elongate that curve. So it's really just trying to have fun with whole foods and looking at the balance that's on the plate. And so that's the Fab Four. And the Fab Four smoothie was a product of when I became a nutritionist. And when I really started this practice in Los Angeles, there was a juice shop everywhere. It was the years of juice cleansing and smoothie places serving up, orange juice, banana, goji berries, a date, and maybe a tablespoon of pea protein, and calling it your like post-workout shake. And I looked at that and went, oh my gosh, no one is looking at this through the lens of blood sugar balance, through the lens of fructose metabolism, through the lens of energy, and just like how sustaining this is. These aren't sustaining at all. This is, your juice cleanse is a blood sugar roller coaster. Your smoothie might as well be a cupcake. So the Fab Four smoothie was created, and that is simply, we start every blender with a liquid of choice, whether that's water or an all green juice or an unsweetened nut milk, like an unsweetened almond or coconut milk. Really, we don't want any liquid sugar. So we're, I'm particular about that being a low to no sugar base, really preferring, like, if you're loading it with good stuff, filtered water is awesome. And then we do the same thing. We go protein, fat, fiber, green. So pick your protein. Are you grass-fed whey? Are you a collagen person? Are you hemp protein? Are you pea protein? Depends on your lifestyle, depends on your family, but 20 grams of protein. Then you're going to hit it with a healthy fat. Is that a 1/4 of an avocado? Is that a couple tablespoons of walnuts and almond butter? I tend to use fiber-rich fats because that holds, when you're using a whole food fat like avocado or almonds, you're actually maintaining the antioxidants present in that because it's so loaded with vitamin E and those fat soluble vitamins that protect those antioxidants. So from oxidation. So I love that. So some healthy fat, protein, then your fat. So 1 to 2 tablespoons of something good. Fiber, we're going to add a tablespoon of chia, or a tablespoon of flax. If you're working on your microbiome, you want to add inulin or psyllium husk, or you don't want to use any seeds or powders and you want to add cucumber or frozen cauliflower rice. Like sky's the limit from a fiber source. And then some leafy greens. You may add mustard greens, you may add kale, you may add spinach, you maybe have a sensitivity to oxalates and you say, I'm just going to use some frozen cauliflower rice and that's my colorful, even though it's white, that's my colorful add. Or I'm using basil, or I'm adding, maybe you're making a strawberry basil smoothie. Like the flavor profiles can really go any which way. But the kicker is that I'm not starting my smoothie with 2 cups of fruit juice and adding 2 cups of fruit. If you add fruit to the Fab Four smoothie, it's 1/4 to 1/2 cup of your favorite fruit, depending on the type of fruit. And when I say 1/4 cup, it's because I was finding that a lot of people were adding 2 cups of pineapple or banana or mango or these really sugary tropical fruits when they didn't realize that the cup of pineapple they were adding was 14 grams of sugar, but they would never give their kid a 5-gram sugar protein bar, right? It's like, the minute it's quote unquote natural from fruit, they think it's not going to have an impact on my blood sugar or it's healthy. And you just can drink so much more sugar if you're throwing it in a blender. So the fruit happens last and in a serving size.